Welcome to the Remington Podcast, where we take a deep dive into all things ammunition. I'm your host, Audrey Mays, and today I'm sitting down with Head of Research and Development, John Langenfeld.
Happy to be here.
We are celebrating another Centennial cartridge, the 300 H&H.
It's 100 years.
Which I feel like you have brought up a lot in past podcasts.
There's a lot of nostalgia. Maybe not specifically the 300, but Holland & Holland cartridges like the 375. The 300 H&H. So, yeah, 1925.
Okay.
Do you want to know history?
Yes. Hey, John, can you walk us through history, please?
So,
1925.
1925. So, it was the third belted magnum.
Ever.
Belted shell.
Okay. What
is a belt? You got a headspace somewhere. Headspace is a positive stop in the chamber. You can have a rim. So if you think of a 30-30, 360 buckhammer, you have a flanged rim.
It like sticks out from the
Think of
body.
A shot shell.
Right.
That's the rim. That's what sets the headspace so that it doesn't stick out so much that you can't close your gun. Then it stops it from going too far
down
in.
The barrel. Yeah.
Right? So that's your firing pin makes positive contact and you get ignition. So you have flanged cartridges, rimmed, and then you have rimless cartridges. So think of a 30-06. It headspaces off the shoulder.
Okay.
So when you slide it in, that shoulder has to be at the right place. If it's too shallow, goes in too far. If it's too far out, doesn't go in far enough.
Right.
So headspace is critical. With the belted magnum, what you get is headspace off the belt. So it's kind of like a stubby rim, so to speak.
Yeah.
Why would you put that on there? Well, if you don't have a firearm platform that can reliably feed rimmed cartridges, because there have been a couple, but you don't see a lot of bolt actions feeding rimmed cartridges. So, like you don't see very many 30-30 bolt guns, 360 bolt guns, things like that, because of the rim. You have to stack them in front of each other. Otherwise, you're never going to get the next one over the top to go in the chamber.
Right.
And so you can't have a rim. And if you don't have a pronounced shoulder, you can have headspace issues and end up with misfires if they're too short or vice versa. So they put a belt on the cartridge so that it would headspace correctly, because the first one, I believe, was a 400 375 is what it was called.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
In 1905, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And I think a 9.3 came out, more popularity. 1912, Holland & Holland comes out with the 375. Bigger case, higher velocity, belted magnum. So same concept as the original one, but it was bigger, bigger head, but still belted.
Belted.
So the 375 H&H, it's got a long tapered body. It has a fairly shallow sloped shoulder, which is great for feeding out of a bolt gun. You don't have a sharp shoulder that you hit. It's just
you're not
basically
going to catch.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just basically this big slope that goes up in there. So great for feeding. And the 375 H&H is a great all-purpose into minimum dangerous game. Now, it's not the flattest shooting cartridge in the world that you're going to want to maybe use that for your all-purpose North American rifle. But in Africa, you could use it for a plains rifle. You could use it for dangerous game on the minimum side. It's really a jack of all trades. So that's 1912. That one comes out. And then you have the 300 H&H in 1925. The third belted, there was one more after that one that Holland & Holland did, and it was smaller caliber. I'm not, 2 something, I don't remember exactly. But anyway, so the 300 H&H, it was the original 30 caliber Magnum.
Okay.
And big deal.
That's a big turn.
High velocity.
Yeah.
So it's a big, long case. If you see a picture of one, it's like I said, it's long, it's a shallow shoulder, big tapered case. I've never used one. They're not real popular today because other cartridges over time have come out that have gained in popularity, like the 300 Weatherby, 300 Winchester Magnum, 300 Ultra Magnums, things like that. There's multiple other 30 cal Magnums that have been introduced.
That I would say like the guns are more prevalent in those calibers as well.
Today they are.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. And so at the time, that case, the pressure on it, I think the SAMI pressure is around 55,000, where most stuff we do today, if it's, depending on the platform, can be up to 65, and you got peak alloy at 80 now.
Right.
So if you go buy factory ammo for 300 Holland & Holland, it's not going to be as fast as 300 Win Mag.
Mm-hmm.
If you hand load 300 Holland & Holland, and you read pressure signs, things like that, there's no reason that case couldn't handle a little bit more.
You can make it faster.
You can pretty much make it a 300 Win Mag.
Yeah. Well, I feel like and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like when H&H 1925, it was more about getting those bigger caliber, bigger grain weight bullets.
And you got to realize that the propellant that they were using then was not of what we have today.
Right.
And so to achieve a goal velocity,
mm-hmm.
you had to size your case accordingly. And so if I'm not mistaken, I think that they were using cordite.
Mm-hmm.
It's cord type propellant.
I actually never thought about that's why they call it that.
Cordite, yeah. So like the 416. 416 Rigby was a big cordite, and you can achieve the same ballistics, 2400 with a 400 with modern powders in a smaller case. Now, if you want a hand load for a Rigby, and you can make it walk and talk like a Weatherby.
Sure.
Anyways, so 300 Holland Magnum, 1925, big case, taper, feeds good, put the belt on it so that you get positive headspace. There's just history and nostalgia there. So with those cartridges, the 375, the 300 H&H, that's the parent case for so many belted.
A lot of things.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just in my own personal battery, I've got 300 Win Mag, 338 Win Mag, 375 Holland & Holland, 416 Remington Magnum.
Mm-hmm.
You've got stuff that I don't own, 7mm Remington Magnum, 264 Win Mag. There's just
the
on
list
and on.
goes on and on.
Most of the Weatherbys, so all the Weatherbys have belts except for the most recent ones, like the 6.5 RPM. But I think that individuals associated the belt with Magnum.
Okay.
Like it was like high base on a shotgun shell. Like if it's got a belt on it, that's Magnum.
That's such a good analogy.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's even true to this day. I have a friend who called me the other day asking me about a particular load, and he was asking, hey guys, do you make a such and such shot shell, this payload, this velocity? And I was like, yeah, we can, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, does it have high brass on it?
And you're like, what do you want high brass for?
No. He's like, oh, they won't work.
Oh,
and I'm like, he goes, yeah, me and my buddies that we want to use these loads. He's like, I will never be able to put a shell in their hands with a low height cap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's just not a factor. My dad, bless him, he's the same way. This is a high brass shot shell. He loved that stuff. So that's so funny.
So same thing. I believe that they associated belts with Magnum.
Uh-huh.
And, they're still around today. Most of your modern cartridge design doesn't use a belt because the headspace off the shoulder. And there's, a lot of reasons. There's pros and cons to a belt. But there's a lot of history there. And those cartridges have been used all over the world. And, so modern ammunition for the 300 H&H, there's not a lot of it. I think Federal makes it still.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we have a SKU for it.
We do not.
But there are some rifles out there.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we have a few old rifles in the armory.
Mm-hmm. I've seen those.
That say 300 Magnum. That's how it's stamped.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was the only one at the time. They didn't have to say this is 300 Holland because there wasn't a Winchester. There wasn't the Ultra Magnums. It just says 300 Magnum.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
That's like a piece of history.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And there's something to that for people that get in the weeds and, you're hunting with a particular rifle and, you just feel like I want to hunt Africa with a 416 Rigby rather than a 416 Remington. Well, why? You got a bigger, heavier gun. You can do the same stuff. And it's like, because it's the Rigby.
Yes.
Harry Selby hunted with Robert Rourke and he carried a Rigby.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just something there. You feel like you're connected with all that stuff and that history. So the 300 Holland & Holland, not only does it feed good because of its case design, it is a full length case. So you do have to have a decent sized magazine box and things. It's not standard length. And custom gunsmiths will still chamber rifles for them.
If you're into it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. There's brass available. It's not as common as, say, .6 or some of the other, stuff that everybody runs every day. But it's a solid cartridge. It's a solid performer. It's a big game hunting round. And there's a lot of history there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's the 300 H&H.
And we talked about this before we started, but I when I think 300 H&H, and I think it's because of 375 H&H, I'm like, that's an Africa gun. That's an Africa cartridge. But that's not true.
No, absolutely not. I mean, so if you look at the velocity levels, your 300 H&H is going to fall in between a 30-06 and a 300 Win Mag.
Okay.
In factory ammunition. That's where it's going to fall. So it's what do you do with those cartridges? You hunt deer, you hunt elk, you hunt moose, African plains game. You know, anything that you do with an 06 or 300 Win Mag, this falls right into there. It's just of an older case profile and shape for the 1925 time to get the highest velocity they could with the propellants that they had. Yeah. And they wanted it to feed slick and, you know, the shoulder on it, everything, you know, reliability was important. You don't need cases sticking or hard to get in especially if you're in a situation where you need to have a good follow-up shot or quick follow-up shot. So, and the H&H case was already there in 375 for those reasons as well. And, so no, I think the Holland name makes you think Africa.
Yes,
you know,
it does.
The H&H, you know, and just the English and Africa and stuff like that. And so absolutely, I'm sure that there was a bunch of them used there. I know that there was, you know, historical famous figures that have used the H&H. I can't quote any off the top of my head. But
I mean, there's got to be. It was the newest and the latest and the greatest.
If you go back and look, like I said, I'm not going to throw any names out because I'll get corrected, but you know, the romance with Africa and those kind of cartridges, it wouldn't surprise me if you didn't see stuff that was like a Hemingway. I'll throw a name out. Maybe not.
Yeah.
You know, I don't remember. It's been a while since I've read The Green Hills of Africa, but anyways, 100%.
Yeah. And I mean, we here at Remington appreciate that you want to shoot the nostalgia gun. You want to hold a piece of history. Like you want to do it like your great grandpa used to.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, we appreciate the 300 H&H. And I love these Centennial cartridges because they withhold.
Oh yeah. They can. This one's got a lot of lineage. You know, with its parent case and so many things. It is the
parent case.
Well, close. You got to go back one more. Oh. Yeah, the 375. But it's right within that time frame that all this stuff was based off of. Unfortunately, you know, with its length, with modern propellants, and other cartridges, they started to hedge it out.
Yeah.
You know, the 375 is still strong. You know, I mean, that was my first medium bore 375 H&H, and it's actually a Beeson rifle. And
of course it is.
I took it to Africa. It was my first medium bore. I didn't have a big bore. That was my first, and you know, it was an opportunity to acquire the rifle, and it had been hunted one time in, I think, 1995. Went to Tanzania, and it was in beautiful condition. It's on a pre-64 Model 70, you know, gorgeous French walnut. And I actually took that rifle to Zim and used it for my light rifle and harvested, you know, all but maybe 2 animals with it. So, yeah, anyways, I don't know where I was going. I just started going down memory lane. But
which is what we do here.
The 375 and the H&H, the 300 is the 375 is still a strong one. It's still manufactured today. There's rifles chambered to it. You can go pull catalogs, and that's still there. You're not going to see the H&H, the 300. You're not going to see it much because there's things out there that are faster and flatter and more manufactured, and they've kind of edged it out. But that history, there's still things that are strong.
And I'm sure the guns are beautiful.
30-06. 30-06 is still, you know, it's still going strong, big numbers. So just depends on what kind of comes out to hedge it out in technology later and what shells are designed and what the speeds are to see if consumers and which way they go. I'm sure it's big also still in the hand loading community. I would say that's probably the biggest. That's where it lives. The biggest place, custom rifles. Yeah. I actually had an opportunity to acquire a 300 H&H about 2 years ago. Custom Gunsmith had sent me a note, and one of his rifles had come up for sale, and it was a 300 H&H. And so if I was just trying to add more rifles, it would have been a cool one to have, but I didn't need any more rifles. I was like, that's the first time I've ever heard him say that, y'all. Yeah. Nah, that's crazy. I didn't say want. I said need. Yeah. I decided, I'll go hunting. I'll spend the money on hunting and use the ones I have rather than having adding another one. I guess that's fair, John. We'll let you slide on this one. So. But yeah. Well, thanks for being here and celebrating the Centennial with 300 H&H with us. Yeah. There you have it, guys. Remington is on the rise. Like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to share this podcast with your hunting or shooting buddies.
If you have any questions for me or John here, you can email us at podcast@remington.com. Thanks for listening.